The space program of the People's Republic of China is directed by the China National Space Administration. Its technological roots can be traced back to the late 1950s, when China began a ballistic missile program in response to perceived American threats. However, the first Chinese crewed space program only began several decades later, when an accelerated program of technological development culminated in Yang Liwei's successful 2003 flight aboard Shenzhou 5. This achievement made China the third country to independently send humans into space. Plans currently include a permanent Chinese space station in 2022 and crewed expeditions to the moon. Officials have articulated long-term ambitions to exploit Earth-Moon space for industrial development. Officials announced China's first landing of a reusable space vehicle at Lop Noor on September 6, 2020, after the United States threatened to use nuclear weapons during the Korean War. Chairman Mao Zedong decided that only a nuclear deterrent of its own would guarantee the security of the newly founded PRC. Additionally, he wanted China to gain status among the world's powers that, as he felt, did not respect him. From this, he decided instead to only implement his new plan with the Republic of China as China. Thus, Mao announced his decision to develop China's own strategic weapons, including nuclear bombs and associated missiles for the warheads, during a Communist Party of China Central Committee meeting held on January 15, 1955. The Chinese nuclear weapons program was designated by the code name of O2. The Fifth Academy of the National Defense Ministry was founded on October 8, 1956, with Qian Zuzhen, who had just been deported from the United States after being accused of being a communist during the Red Scare. As director, the Academy started the development of the first ballistic missile program, adopted on March 1, 1956 and known as the first 12-year plan for Chinese aerospace. After the launch of mankind's first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, by the Soviet Union on October 4, 1957, Mao decided during the National Congress of the CPC on May 17, 1958 to make China an equal with the superpowers, by adopting Project 581 with the objective of placing a satellite in orbit by 1959 to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the PRC's founding. This goal would be achieved in 3 phases: developing sounding rockets first, then launching small satellites and in the final phase, large satellites. The construction of China's first missile test base, code-named Base 20 in July 1960, with an increased range double that of the R-2. During the cordial Sino-Soviet relations of the 1950s, the USSR engaged in a cooperative technology transfer program with the PRC under which they trained Chinese students and provided the fledgling program with a sample R-2 rocket. But when Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev was denounced as revisionist, with Mao asserting that there had been a counter-revolution in the Soviet Union and that capitalism had been restored, the friendly relationship between the two countries turned to confrontation. As a consequence, all Soviet technological assistance was abruptly withdrawn after the 1960 Sino-Soviet split. Only 17 days after the last Soviet expert had left China, the first Soviet-built R-2 rocket fueled with Chinese-made propellant was launched with success on September 10, 1960. Due to Cold War tension, Mao decided in December 1963 that China should develop missile defense system capacity. During a conference held on February 2, 1964, Directive 640 was adopted. The first successful launch of a Chinese 1059 SRBM missile copy of the R-2 was conducted only 2 months later on November 5, 1960. The missile was also designated DF-1. The first DF-2 MRBM was tested on March 21, 1962, but failed. Development eventually continued with the redesigned DF-2 AMRBM, which was successfully tested on June 29, 1964. It would enter service by the end of 1966. The first successful launch and recovery of AT-7A program in August 1965. It was designed to carry a single nuclear warhead and has a maximum range of 12,000 kilometers. In November 1966, it was decided to build a second ballistic missile test site, the Northern Missile Test Site, also in development. As the space race between the two superpowers reached its climax with the conquest of the moon, Mao and Zhou Enlai decided on July 14, 1967 that the PRC should not be left behind, and started China's own crewed space program. China's first spacecraft designed for human occupancy was named SHUGUANG-1. It was decided to construct a new space center in the mountainous region of Xiqing in the Sichuan province, codenamed Base 27. The first liquid propellant DF-3 medium-range ballistic missile was successfully launched from the Northern Missile Test Site on December 18, 1968, inaugurating the test site. In August 1969, the development of China's first heavy-lift satellite launch vehicle, the Fengbao 1, Fengbao Yihao, was street